Hello and welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is episode 415 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you as always for joining me. It's a short week. It's week 9, Thursday Night Football at MetLife Stadium. The dreadful 2-6 New York Jets face off against the 6-2 division leading Houston Texans in the AFC South. Today, we're joined by Texans analyst Ruben Gamez. Ruben, thanks so much for coming on. How's it going, man?
Man, I'm doing good, man. Thank you so much for having me. Just have a great conversation, dude. Hopefully, at the end of this game, we could say everyone came out healthy.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing I think at this point, especially from a Jet perspective. Hopefully, no major injuries. It's been a bumpy year, and that's kind of where I wanted to start. Get your thoughts here, obviously, overall on what the Texans have done this season, coming off of year one with Stroud and DeMeco Ryans. They go to the playoffs, win a playoff game. You come into this year with a ton of expectations, and so far have produced 6-2 so far, leading the division by a pretty wide margin in the AFC South. Just what are your thoughts on what the Texans have done this season? And then also from an outside perspective, what has gone wrong to where the Jets are right now, losing 5 straight?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start with the Jets, dude. I will say I am a big fan of Aaron Rodgers. The only, other jersey I have that isn't Houston Texans is a Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers
Mhm.
jersey, man, following him his whole career. Sad to see what's going on right now, dude. It feels like that, he just doesn't care about anyone but himself. And I think, it's wrong for the Jets nation, right? The fandom believed in Aaron Rodgers. I saw all the hype in the offseason, and the fact that he is acting like this and also playing horrible on the field, man, is just it's so disappointing, man. It's so heartbreaking. Like, you go back to last year, right? Week 1, him coming out with that flag. I mean, I was like, wow, the Jets might actually, be something this year. And fortunately, we all know how that went out. But dude, I feel bad. And, coming from, I was just in a situation like that 2 to 3 years ago. I know it feels like it's gonna last forever, dude. But keep your chin up, like you mentioned. You're on episode 400 plus, man. You're doing a fantastic job, dude.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been another one of those same old Jet seasons, and you're spot on, right? We had so much hope with Rodgers and the flag and all that stuff running out of the tunnel. He goes down 4 plays in, and it feels like that just messed up the entire timeline because at this point he's a shell of himself.
Mm-hmm.
Mobility's not the same. They can't get the play off at the line of scrimmage, burn 3 timeouts in the first quarter. Just not the same player he once was, and not the player that we all hoped and expected to get when they traded for him back in 2023. And from the Texan standpoint, obviously you've dealt with some injuries. Another tough
Mm-hmm.
blow today with Stephon Diggs done for the year with the torn ACL. Despite all that, despite Nico Collins still being out, what have you seen from this team in year 2 with this quarterback and head coach?
It's resilient. It shows that they are willing to win by 3. They're willing to win by 7. And our only big win was against the New England Patriots, but they're one of the worst teams in the NFL. You have a great running back in Joe Mixon, and if he is not playing for you right now, I don't believe this Houston Texans team is 6-2. It's crazy that you got him from a 7th round pick. I'm pretty sure the Bengals are kicking themselves in the butt, but Joe Mixon has been, the workhorse, the bell cow for this Houston Texan offense. And we lost Nico Collins. We had Stephon Diggs step up in these 4 weeks. Unfortunately, the news today, he goes out with the ACL injury, man. Just unfortunate. A big blow, not only on the field, but off the field, man. He was a captain this year. And, I go back to when we were in training camp and he was working with guys after and guys that didn't even make the roster. He was still giving them tips and advice. So huge blow to the Houston Texans offense. But when you have a franchise quarterback, when you have number 7 CJ Stroud, it feels like he can overcome so many obstacles, and he's doing that this year. Our offensive line, it's absolutely horrible. Every single week, it's a new career high for CJ Stroud of being under pressure. This offensive line, Bubbs, has almost 4 first-round picks invested into it, a second-round pick, and they are the highest paid offensive line in the NFL, yet they are 28th in pass protection. That's what's wrong with this Houston Texans team. If they lose games going forward, it will be because this offensive line cannot protect CJ Stroud. We have an elite defense, man, but this O line is holding us back.
Yeah, and you mentioned some of the O-line concerns. Do you feel it's maybe some growing pains up front? Like, what have been the big issues? Do you trust that they can get out of this here, potentially starting Thursday against the Jets pass rush that has been one of the most disappointing units of this entire team this season? Just, I guess, what do you see future-wise with this O-line? Do you feel it's getting better? Is this just what they are? What are your thoughts there?
To be honest with you, it's just what they are.
Mhm.
Laramie Tunsil, he is your left tackle. You just benched Kenyon Green on Sunday because had a horrible first quarter. His replacement went out, and the Houston Texans scored a touchdown drive. Then his replacement on the touchdown play gets a concussion, so he's out for the next couple of weeks. So now you have Kenyon Green back in, and dude, it's horrible. And you have three of them with 3-year contracts. You gave one to Titus Howard, and he's not playing where he needs to be. It does not get better. We are what we are, and it's disappointing, man, because now is not the time to be struggling when you have a franchise quarterback. I've seen Deshaun Watson behind a horrible offensive line. I've seen David Carr behind a horrible offensive line, and you cannot have that with CJ Stroud. This is legitimately a game-changing quarterback, man, and if they didn't make a change, he was going to get hurt out there.
I want to shift back to the wide receiving core here for a second as we get into some of this, the other pieces to this offense. Just obviously, Nico Collins going down has been a tough blow. Stephon Diggs has stepped up. Him going down is a major blow, especially that's the season. Nico Collins comes back here probably next week. Diggs is done, which is just awful. Also, contracts up at the end of this year, so you wonder what the future is there. For
Exactly.
him. I guess part of that too, before we even just get into other guys that need to step up, do you see Diggs here 2025 and beyond, or is that something that you feel they'll move in a different direction at the end of this offseason? How do you feel the future fits in with him now with the injury?
Now we get into the business side of it, right?
Yeah.
If the money makes sense, then I am more than happy to have Stephon Diggs back on the Houston Texans. However, I know who I need to pay in the next coming years: Derek Stingley, Will Anderson Jr., C.J. Stroud. We got to start preparing for that, Houston Texans fans. If it makes sense, then let's go ahead and do it. Also, our GM, he works in 1 to 2 year increments, so maybe we can bring in someone. But with what just happened, man, I I would be happy if they brought back Stephon Diggs, but like I said, the money has to make sense.
Yeah, make a good point there with all the young core pieces that they will have to pay. Definitely something to keep an eye on once the offseason comes here in the next couple months after what should be another probably pretty strong playoff run for this team. Just the rest of the receiving core. Obviously, Tank Dell will kind of step in this week with that number one role. You've got guys like Robert Woods, John Mechie, Xavier Hutchinson, and of course Dalton Schultz as well at the tight end spot, who's been a really reliable weapon for Stroud over the last 2 seasons. Just what are some names that you expect to continue to step up, some names that have to step up, and Tank Dell as well, who last year was carrying my fantasy team for a couple weeks, and then he goes down, and so did my fantasy team, kind of went up in flames after that. So just what do those guys bring to the table from a depth perspective with the top 2 wideouts out?
Yeah, I mean, I need Tank Dell to go back to last year. I mean, at one point we were having the conversation, is he the number one option for CJ Stroud? Because CJ Stroud and Nico Collins were working, but CJ Stroud to Tank Dell was electric. And we have not seen that this year. He had about 30 plus yards last week and a touchdown, had 2 big plays after Stephon Diggs went out. So he needs to step up. He's going up against Sauce Gardner. And if you go back to college, man, when they went up against each other, Tank that was winning that matchup almost every single time. So I'm excited to see that. Dalton Schultz has to step up. He was one that last year was a go-to option towards the end of the year for CJ Stroud, and we haven't seen that at all. So he needs to step up also. Old man Robert Woods, I don't think he is going to be a factor. Number 8, John Mechie, though, he might be something. He has to step up because we're so depleted right now. But Xavier Hutchinson, number 19, is another one to watch. He has some great moments, could go up and get it.
Yeah, you mentioned the Tank Dell battle. Sauce has been a guy, year 1, year 2, was one of the elite corners in the NFL. This season has been very, very disappointing. And at the beginning of the year, we all kind of expected going into this offseason, he would be a guy that gets the highest paid cornerback money in the NFL, topping what Pat Surtain got. But he's been has done a complete 180 in the wrong direction. Last week got turned around by Boutte, a UDFA by the New England Patriots for the game losing, one of the key pieces
Hey,
to
he
that.
killed Derek Stingley too,
Yeah,
bro. So don't feel too bad.
yeah, yeah. I guess so. It's just and his tackling too. There's been moments with Sauce this year where he just looks lazy. He looks like he
Mhm.
doesn't want to be out there. He's not bringing any energy. He just looks so off from where he was last year in his rookie season. It's so alarming from what this guy has been. So I definitely look at that matchup for Tank Dell as something he can exploit, because he's been far from the number one corner. He's been terrible really this year, to put it pretty bluntly. Now, I want to just wrap things up here with the offense.
Mhm.
Um, when it comes to Stroud, I guess, like, where do you see this guy's like ceiling? Do you think he reaches number one cornerback like NFL? How do you see his ceiling? I know now he's got a running back, which takes a little bit of the load
Mhm.
off his plate, but just what do you feel in terms of moving forward? How much better can he get from where he was last year and in so far this season as well?
I feel like as he gets older and as he gets more seasons, I feel like year in and year out, he could be in conversations for top 5 quarterback. Of
Yeah.
course, I don't want to say number one because right now that's Patrick Mahomes. There's no debate about that. But CJ Stroud is great. I mean, you see some of the throws he makes with his offensive line, and you're like, wow. Last year, we had no Lermy Tunsil, no Titus Howard, and we were able to put up 0 sack performances, and that's where we saw CJ Stroud put up 40 plus points. And he's just electric, man. He is a natural born leader. He showed that in year one, truly a franchise changing player. And it happened as soon as he stepped foot into the building. He just, the legend of him just continues to grow. He doesn't turn the ball over. He's not really a problem, outside in social media or anything like that. He's just been fantastic here.
Yeah, 100%. One of the elite quarterbacks right now in the NFL and feels like only getting better. Now, I want to move to the defensive side of the football.
Mhm.
2 rookie of the years. The biggest
Mhm.
one was CJ Stroud. Most people talked about him. You can't forget about Will Anderson Jr. What he did last year was excellent, and what he's doing again this year is even better. 7.5 sacks so far. And also, you bring in Danielle Hunter, who's been a very big piece. 5.5 sacks so far this season. Those two guys lead the team. They've led the way up front. What have you seen from those two guys, and Will Anderson specifically, not having any sort of drop off, in a way actually
Mhm.
being better than what he was last year, where he took home the defense rookie of the year?
I'll give you a funny story. At draft day, the Texans had a whole party in downtown Houston.
Yeah.
We were there in attendance, and the reaction for CJ Stroud was loud, but the reaction to trading up and grabbing Will Anderson
Mhm.
Jr., I mean, the crowd erupted, and he got it going late and ended up winning the Defensive Rookie of the Year. And we were saying, man, Will Anderson Jr. could potentially be a J.J. Watt type of player. And man, he's looked like that. I mean, 7.5 sacks, fantastic against the run. Will Anderson Jr. is a threat. And, his ceiling, man, I think could also be a top 10 defensive player in the NFL going in, going out. He already is, I think, number 2 in odds in terms of defensive player of the year odds. And you look at Danielle Hunter, your big signing in the offseason, $48 million guaranteed. They just got it going. The past 3 weeks, they each have had a sack. So these two guys are firing on all cylinders, man. And I don't see any signs of them stopping.
No, especially this week. I think Will Anderson, there's a pretty good chance. This is just how down I am on the Jets. Like, I look at this game as probably a game Houston. I'm shocked that the Jets are favorites, that the Vegas
I
thing.
am too, bro.
Yeah, I'm very, very surprised. I know it's a Thursday night game and the Jets are home, which Thursday night games anytime of that stadium will be 80% Texans fans. It should be. I don't know why any Jets fan would want to blow their money on watching this team in person. It's bad enough on TV right now. But like, when you look at, and I know they're without their top 2 receivers, but there's so much wrong with the Jets. I still don't see this. I mean, this would be a typical Jet game to win, where they're playing poorly. There's got a lot of the fan base just tanking at this point on the tank train. Then they find a way to beat a team that's so much better than them. Like that. That would be typical
Mhm.
Jets. Lose 5 straight, win a game they shouldn't win. That's what they do. But I'm surprised they're underdogs, or they're favorites, and the Texans are underdogs. But to Will Anderson's point, I mean, Tyron Smith this season has been a shell of himself. He has not looked anything like the Tyron Smith that we even saw last year in Dallas. Not even Tyron Smith 5-6 years ago, just Tyron Smith last year. Not anywhere close to that. He's aging very poorly this season. Will Anderson, potentially a matchup there for him to take advantage of. And he takes advantage of a lot of tackles in the NFL, but Tyron Smith definitely could be his next victim. I want to move on, and we talked a little about Sauce, Tank Dell, Derek Stingley, right? Picked ahead of Sauce. At first, right, had some of the injuries early on, and now has really turned it on. Last year was a lot better. This season has been much better. So after kind of a rough rookie year, has really bounced back these last 2 seasons. What have you seen from him? And really just how much better can he get? Because it feels like right now he's kind of on this upward trajectory. And
Yeah, I
you
mean,
mentioned
he
one of these
has
core
been.
pieces that will need to be paid.
No, for sure. He has been the Houston Texans' number one cornerback.
Yeah.
And it's, we find it funny sometimes when quarterbacks test them. However, there are some moments where Derek Stingley does get beat, right? We mentioned Booty from the Patriots. He beat Derek Stingley
Yeah.
on a touchdown right before halftime. Those things happen. He got a new agent this offseason, David Mulligetta. And what we know about him is he loves to get his guys paid. So this is going to be a situation going forward, but the conversations around Derek Stingley were, if healthy, we're talking about one of the top cornerbacks in the NFL, and he just needs to get more experience out there, man. And a healthy season of Derek Stingley, we're talking about a Pro Bowl cornerback here.
Will Anderson, Daniel Hunter, obviously Stingley, Jalen Petrie, other pieces. Jimmy Ward, I know, has been out the last couple weeks. Any update on him as if he will play, and then any other guys to look for on this defense, which has been impressive?
Yeah, no, there will be no Jimmy Ward there. I doubt there will be Aziz Al-Shaair, our captain. We haven't seen him the last couple of weeks. I think that's why we brought in Devin White off the market. Losing those, two guys is big. We do get Henry to a tool back. Our other starting linebacker was out with a concussion. He has cleared protocol, so he will be at practice ready to go. Hopefully he suits up on Thursday. If not, I 100% understand, what that field out there. But, the Houston Texans defense right now, dude, it doesn't matter who's injured, who's there, because DeMeco Ryans has shown that they could be ferocious and they swarm to the ball.
Yeah, and I wanted to get to DeMeco here as well. You mentioned just now his fingerprints that he's put on this defense, but also just from a culture perspective, I mean, the way he's turned this organization around in 1 year, really, where they go to the playoffs last year, and now year number 2, they're destined for what looks like should be another playoff run, even maybe deeper than last year, potentially a run here at the Super Bowl. Just how much has he changed everything? I know CJ Stroud's a huge part. Hitting on the quarterback is huge. But the coach as well, just, I mean, I guess to spread out the importance, they're all very important, but just DeMeco Ryans and the defense and the culture and all that stuff, where he's turned this thing around in a year to really, that's been it.
The years before DeMeco got here were scary. There
Yeah.
was no love for the Houston Texans, and I truly mean that. I feel like I was one of the few out here that was going to training camp practices. I mean, dude, you can get a great seat 3 years ago for $50, and you have a perfect view of everything. You did not see no jerseys outside, no hats outside. That all changed once DeMeco stepped in. And there was this moment, Bubbs, where we sang him happy birthday in the first training camp practice last year, his first one as head coach. And dude, he had a smile, and we felt like we got one. Then you saw what happened during the season. You see 10 wins, a playoff blowout against the Browns. And this year, what he's done with his defense, man, I think we have a Super Bowl caliber defense when healthy, and it is all DeMeco. There really is a DeMeco effect, like our owner Hannah McNair said. And he's been everything for this franchise, man. He's going to be one of them guys, man, that that brings it home for us 1 year.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it's heading in that right direction up to this point. So to kind of, as we slowly start to wrap things up here, just any other guys that you look for on this Texans team that we haven't talked about already, any other radar guys that made impact so far, could make an impact here on Thursday night, both offensively and defensively?
Yeah, let's talk about Jalen Petrie. He has been our safety / linebacker hybrid. He had an interception against the Colts the week before that at Green Bay. He had almost the exact same type of play. He batted it up. It got picked off by Neville Hewitt. He has been playing with his head on fire, man. And, he has stepped it up after a horrible year too. Jalen Petrie has been fantastic.
Neville Hewitt is former Jet there, so another.
Dude, hey man, he only plays at one speed, and that's 100. He knocks people out, bro.
Yeah. So just to close things out here, where can everybody find you? All your social media, YouTube, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, man, on YouTube, it's 713 Houston Sportscast. It's the same on Instagram. On X, it's at 713 HOU Sports, man. We drop daily Houston Texans content, man. Once again, dude, thank you so much for having me on, man. I love the setup, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. Your setup as well. Super, super cool. Really appreciate you coming on. And I guess just to close things out, you got a prediction for this one?
Yeah, I have the Houston Texans winning, man. Let's go 17-24. I think it'll be a close game. The Houston Texans have played teams close all year.
Yeah, I'll go with I'll roll with that one as well. I think the Texans win this game, and they get to their 7th win on the season and keep things rolling despite some of the injuries they got at wideout. So really appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun. Make sure you guys
I
check
got a question to ask you.
Yeah.
So I saw that your super fan Fireman Ed was upset that the Jets are taking him off the screens. How do you feel about that? Because we have our own guy who who acts the exact same way.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was at the home opener, and at the beginning of the season, I planned on going to all the games. Like I plan on going to good vast majority of the home games, and in the Jets, of course, Jet, and now the season's over before Halloween. But and I haven't been back since. But yeah, the Monday night game against the Bills sparked a lot of it, where he was only on the jumbotron like before the game. Usually they have him on after each touchdown. I don't know. It's weird. I hope they're not phasing him out. I mean, he's a super fan. I don't know if it's something he said. Woody's very sensitive. The ownership very sensitive with this team, with what fans do and say. But it's weird. It's just like, to me, it's just like a same old Jet type of thing. Like, we're not winning games. Now we've got issues with now we've got like the biggest fan having issues, I guess, with the team, or the team having issues with the biggest fan we've got, like the JETS chant, which is one of the only good things right now about this team. But yeah, it's weird. And I love Fireman, and he's an awesome guy. He's an awesome person. And I don't, it's weird. But I don't know. It feels like
You understand,
what was that?
Like you understand why they're doing it if they are, trying to move on.
Yeah. I don't really know why they would be doing it. Like, I don't know if it's something that was said. I don't know. It's weird. But I hope they're not. I mean, I don't know. There's usually 3 of them up there. It's usually Fireman Ed, this guy Jetman, and then there's one other guy. I forget his name. It's usually 3 of them up there doing the chant. But
nice.
I don't know. I mean, it's another wrinkle into what has been a very strange season. And that's been that was our last home game. So we'll kind of see what it's like tomorrow, or Thursday rather. If he's out there, if he's on the jumbotron, because he said they were phasing him out, which I hope that's not the case, because then there's no home field advantage. Really, it's already tough to get a home field advantage with where the team's at. But yeah, it's strange. It's just something that only would happen to the Jets. I mean, I guess the super fan you guys have, none of has this happened with him, or
no. We haven't had no one upset, but we do got the one who he's like on camera, like every single opportunity they can. Like, whenever we need to get hyped up, we pointed at that guy.
Yeah, and that's the same with Fireman Ed, is the like he's always on the jumbotron. I guess that was the problem, was he was only on it before the game. Usually he's on it after touchdowns, sometimes on it on third downs. I guess that was the problem, but it's so
dumb, huh?
Yeah, it's just a mess. That's what the whole situation right now is, a mess. From they got the fans to the organization. It's all just one big happy family, as I like to call it in Jetland. But one day it'll get turned around. I look at the Texans, I look at the Lions, and I hope that can kind of be what the Jets eventually fall into. Get a coach, a little bit different with the Lions. They didn't draft a quarterback, but get a coach, draft a quarterback, something like that. and fall into some success would be great. So we'll see. And it'll keep all the fans happy. Ownership will be happy. Everybody would be happy.
Please.
That'd be a good thing. But yeah, we'll see. Thursday night, prime time showdown, AFC, and we'll see what all happens out there. A little Halloween matchup out at MetLife Stadium. So appreciate you all tuning in. Ruben, again, thank you so much for coming on. This was a lot of fun, and we will catch you guys later. As always, thanks for tuning in.